A very, very good day, sir. Good to see you again this year.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, Ernest. Good to see you too.
I'm quite pleased when I heard everything you were saying on the panel about the subject matter. By the way, what would you say is the assessment of the topic of the year, revitalizing the industry, future oil and energy transition?
First, let me introduce myself. My name is Adetunji Oyebanji. I'm the MD CEO of Double One PLC, which used to be Mobile Oil Nigeria PLC. I'm also a past chairman of the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, and currently the chairman of the downstream group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I think the theme for the conference or for the summit is very apt because, as you know, the world as a whole is in transition at this point in time. And this is very significant for Nigeria, being a country that has occupied one of the top 10 crude oil producers in the world for many, many years. The fact that people are talking about energy transition, comes with mixed feelings because it's a double-edged sword for us, while at the same time it presents opportunities for us, and I'll explain that in a bit, but also it portends some danger in that the world is seeking to move away from crude oil in particular and fossil fuels in general. Now, where it presents an opportunity is that Nigeria actually has very large gas reserves. I think, having a theme for the summit that looks at this area, I think is very apt and it's very timely because we can't lose sight of the future as to where the world is going. We need to be part of it, even though we're a major crude producer, but we need to find a way of making sure we still remain relevant today and also are prepared for the future. So the talk about future readiness, I think, is also very, very apt.
Do you think that the PIA would, in the long run, benefit the ordinary Nigerian? And if it would, to what extent, really?
Okay, again, it still boils down to the same point, because if in an environment where people are allowed to compete, they can offer different ranges of products, they can offer different levels of efficiency. Ultimately, all those things will trickle down into better service for consumers who are buying the products that we sell. So today, instead of buying one brand of petrol, you could actually have a situation where if you drive a Rolls Royce, you can have a higher quality of fuel to use. And if you're driving a lower class car, you can have a fuel that meets your own standard. Yes, it's just like the telephones you and I use. Big boys like you use iPhone 12 and things like that, and other people use smaller phones. So you'll be able to afford and buy at the level you can. So the end result, ultimately, of this transition that we're talking about is that the customers will be served better. They will have better options. There will be more efficiency. Somebody during the panels talked about the fact that when people are paying higher prices for these things, they will not be willing to accept excuses anymore. Anybody who does not deliver the way they expect, the market will penalize them immediately. Nobody will go into that station to buy fuel because they're not sure they are going to get the right quality or the options they want or the service they want. So they're all interwoven.
But talking about the pump price, do you think that Nigeria is ready for absolute deregulation? I know we are, but then the question is, do you think that Nigerians who have been spoon-fed for many years with that singular act of subsidy, do you think that they're ready now to take on that shock of absolute
I don't think
subsidy removal?
I don't think there will ever be a time anybody Nigerians will be quote unquote ready, because implementing that policy will come with an impact on their pockets. So if you think a time will come when everybody is going to say, wonderful, good news, I'm going to start paying 350 naira per liter of fuel. Hooray, good morning, this is wonderful news. I don't think that will ever happen.
But would it ever come down, though? Would the price eventually come down?
Yes, there's no doubt about it. And all we need to do is look at other countries that operate in those levels. While they're complaining now that prices are high, there are times when you hear that prices have gone down to historic levels. It is just a reflection of the market. The thing is, we cannot run away from it forever. The crude that we sell to generate the income that we are using to subsidize follows market forces. That's right. I have not heard any Nigerian say, you know what, oil is selling at $100 per barrel a day. Let us be lenient on the world and sell our own for only $15 per barrel. It doesn't work that way. So the sooner we come to that realization, the better. However, I think what needs to be done is that because there's going to be a shock associated with that change, then it behoves, one, the industry, the government to do a lot more of selling for people to understand why there's a need to do it, and also put in place some measures so that the most vulnerable in the society, who would be hardest hit by those policies when they come, will at least be protected to a certain extent or insulated until such and such a time when people get to understand, okay, this is how this thing works. This is, I actually am going to get some benefit because even as a country, more resources will then become available so that we can now see investments in our roads, in our hospitals, in our schools, and so on and so forth.
At least for the past 3 weeks, there's been these endless queues at the filling stations. We don't quite understand what the issues are. Is it, some said it's the import of methanol, the crude that was bad. Some others said it's about the planned removal of subsidy that is causing it. But I would really want to hear from you because there's like you're a major player in that industry. So what do you think is the cause? Why do we have endless queues?
Okay, the immediate cause was the fact that some quantity of products found its way into the country that had methanol in it. Methanol is a substance that does not like water, and anywhere along the supply chain, whether in the trucks, whether in the vessels, whether in storage tanks, pipelines, where it finds water, including the tank of your car, it mixes and causes a reaction that potentially can damage the car. And immediately that was discovered, all that product had to be secluded, quarantined in a place. So the first problem that arose was that all those people who had taken in that product, there was now a huge quantity in their storage tanks that could not be sold to the public. So you had two problems. You couldn't sell that product to the public. And secondly, that product was also occupying your tanks. So even if you could bring in new products, there was an issue of where to put it. Yes. So we had to scramble around and find a solution to what to do with the product. Secondly, because that product for that period, call it a week or 10 days, suddenly wasn't quote unquote usable. So assuming for argument's sake, you get 4 cargoes a week into the system and 4 cargoes have this problem. So immediately you have created that gap of those 4 cargoes. So the next week, unless you bring in 8, you will not make up for the 4 that had a problem and then the one of the current week. So to find those 8 cargoes immediately on the spot was not easy, because normally you would have placed order for only 4 for that week and the following week, And now suddenly you are required to look for additional for the immediate week. So ultimately, that now created a big gap in the market. Queues started. And once queues start, there's a lot of panic. What that means is that rather than buy 1,000 or 2,000 naira worth of fuel that I'm used to doing, I say, look, fill up my tank. Yeah. And not only fill up my tank, here's my 50 liter. Yes, I'd like to buy so that I can keep, because I don't know how long these queues will last. So guess what? I used the example of 4 bad shipments. Then I talked about needing 4 to replace them. 8. And now, because people are now buying more, the four and 8 suddenly themselves are no longer adequate, because people are now consuming more than that quote unquote average of 4 a week. So to solve the problem, it probably now means that instead of looking at 8, you are now 10 or 12. So the cycle goes back to, where do you now suddenly get 12? Immediately it means if you want to get them, the people selling are not crazy. Nigeria has a problem. You know what? Let's increase the price. So it becomes a cycle. So to now get it back to normal, you have to throw so much products into the system. And don't forget, always remember, you have those contaminated ones that you are still trying to correct and blend and make wholesome for use again. You are having people consuming all the ones you are bringing and buying it as soon as it comes. So that is why the thing is lasting longer. One other final point I'll make is that the challenges thrown up by this situation have also exposed, as it were, some underlying problems that were already existent within the industry, which I alluded to in my earlier comment, which was return on investment was not good. That is why you have old trucks in the system, old pipelines. So immediately this crisis now started, we suddenly found that a lot of the trucks are actually very old. So it takes them, when I was young, it used to take 2 days to move from Lagos to Kano. Now it takes average of 7 to 10 days because of very old trucks, bad roads, and things like that. So, and because the people involved in the business are not getting adequate returns because of the controlled prices and freight rates and all that, they are finding that as the cost of operation, the cost of diesel and all those things went up, there are trucks which are old and can't do many trips, are no longer profitable to operate. So they are parking them. So we've now compounded all the other problems I mentioned before about the cargoes with the fact that the trucks that would actually move them to places like Abuja, and suddenly, instead of maybe 100 doing that work, it has gone down to 70 or 60.
But then, is that the absolute cost? Because there is also that speculation about subsidy removal.
No,
and
it
then
has
panic
nothing to
buying and
do
all
with
that.
subsidy removal. It just happened to be that um, those products were brought in inadvertently. And, the truth of the matter is, refineries go down too. Sometimes even you have a refinery, it has a fault, like a car can break down, a refinery too can break down. So what we don't have is, we don't have the kind of reserves, strategic storage that we can lean on to immediately such a problem takes place. So if we had, maybe the impacts, those 4 cargoes we needed, we would have found them easier, yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oyebanji. Quite pleased having you on set.